Okay, so Preston, let me ask you about the Gendry theory. Have you ever heard about the Gendry theory?
Only briefly from you, but I do not know the ins and outs.
So basically, the Gendry theory is that Cersei in the show. This is only a show thing. A lot of people were like, like it's a show thing, not a book thing. Um, Basically, in the show, in episode 2, after Bran is pushed off from the tower by Jaime, Cersei comes in and she talks to Catelyn, and she tells Catelyn how she had a boy. Her firstborn was a boy who had black hair, and clearly Robert's child, clearly, and it died of fever. And the Gendry theory here is that Gendry was that child. However, because the show includes a lot of scenes that were never in the books, like that one scene in season 1 with Robert and Cersei, you know what I'm talking about?
Um, no, no, actually, which one?
You'll have to go back to it. It's in the same episode where Jaime and Ned fight. Right before that happens, basically Cersei and Robert have this really sobering conversation about their marriage.
Oh, that's right. They sit across from each other, and yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do remember this. I do remember this scene now. Yeah.
And that scene is very key to this theory because it shows Cersei at one point in her marriage thought it could work. And when she and Robert first, consummated the marriage, she got pregnant at that time or maybe another time after that. And he said the thing Lyanna while he was, having sex with her, and that kind of hurt
Which
her.
we all do.
And in the books, after he said that to her the first night, she hated him immediately, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and afterwards, every time he tried to impregnate her, she would abort it with moon tea. But in the show, the theory here is that Cersei had hope for her marriage with Robert. Even though he was an asshole that first night, she wanted... Maybe she was just thinking he was drunk and, it would go away. Very late into the pregnancy, not that great of a husband. Very late into the pregnancy, she realizes he's not that great of a husband, and she also realizes that Jaime is her rock. She can only really count on Jaime and love Jaime. So she has the kid. She didn't get it. She didn't abort it. She has the kid, and the reason she doesn't have the kid killed is because her redeeming quality is her motherly love. She doesn't want to kill children. When Jaime pushes Bran out the window in episode 3 afterwards, she gets mad at Jaime about it. She doesn't want to kill kids. And basically, what the thing is what Varys did with Aegon. There was a switcheroo that Jaime and Pycelle was also in on. And Jaime, he can't leave King's Landing because people would question it. Pawns the Gendry off to somebody, and Gendry grows up in King's Landing, and Cersei doesn't know. That's why in the same episode, in Season 1, Episode 2, Cersei says she never visited the crypts because she knows it's not her baby. Jaime switched it out for another dead kid. And Pycelle, because he's in on it, because he works for the Lannisters, he convinces King Robert that their baby really did die.
So Pycelle would know that Gendry was alive?
Pycelle would know, but he wouldn't know where Gendry is.
Okay, and Varys knows where he is.
Varys, I don't think he would be in on it, because the only people that would ever be in on it would be Cersei, Jaime, and Pycelle. Cersei has no idea if the kid is even alive or not anymore. Jaime was the one who, in the theory, takes the young baby Gendry and just pawns him off to the nearest person, nearest orphanage.
But the whole reason Gendry is working at the armor Tabho Mott is the fact that like Varys set that up, and Varys was like keeping tabs on all of Robert's bastards.
Wasn't it Jon Arryn who was keeping tabs on all of Robert's bastards?
Well, no, well, Jon Arryn was discovering them, but Varys was keeping tabs on them like over the years. I mean, I'm conflating the book a little bit, but like the idea is that like Varys knew that Gendry was working at the armorer, and that's why he had Gendry spirited away with the Night's Watch to head north. Is that he was trying to get one of those bastards to safety to prove later on that the Lannister kids are all bastards.
Right.
And this was like the why these bastards were also getting killed off is people were trying to do the opposite. Whether it be Cersei or Littlefinger trying to kill them off was to eliminate signals that bastards are out there.
Well, that's in the books though. Like in the show, was Varys the one who set up Gendry with Tobomont?
That's a good question. There, I'll have to go. We'd have to go back to second season. Yeah.
In this theory, this is where someone else comes into the mix who's not Varys. But the theory here is that Peter Baelish wants to use, and he says this to Ned briefly before he betrays Ned. Peter Baelish wants to use all of these bastards, and he wants to keep them as safe as possible. That's why he lets that one prostitute keep her baby within his brothel. He wants to keep an eye on all these bastards. That way, he can reveal the truth somehow. Because all these bastards are his trump card against the Lannisters in the future. I remember the other night you and I were talking about how Peter Baelish has all these draperies all over the place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how just tell me about the draperies again.
Well, in the first book in A Game of Thrones, there's mention of Robert's tapestries, which line the walls of the throne room. These tapestries are mentioned, several times. They're of hunting. That's all we kind of know of them. They're green. They're of hunts. And then the minute Robert dies, Cersei takes it upon herself to take all of the tapestries off the wall because she doesn't like any signals of Robert. And she thinks all of these hunting tapestries are bullshit. So she wads them up and puts them in a corner. And at one point, Sansa even sees them in a corner and is like, oh, well, all the tapestries are gone. And then you can kind of, we have stark walls after that, stark stone walls after that. And then we lose track of these things for several books. And then all of a sudden, like, Cersei mentions, Littlefinger sent me a letter saying, hey, can I have some of these tapestries, some of Robert's old tapestries. So I'm like, all right. So she sends them to the Vale, and they show up in the Vale, and Littlefinger hangs them on the wall, and is in the last scene we have from The Winds of Winter, the sample chapter, he's showing them to people and being like, oh, here you go. Look, I got these tapestries. And
maybe he's just a really awesome decorator.
Well, some people theorize that it's something simple, like he's showing people that he's tight with the Lannisters still because he asked for some tapestries and they gave him his tapestries. And then other people are like, well, if they're Baratheon tapestries, they might have Baratheons in them, and they might show that Baratheons historically have this black hair, and he's gonna pop up with Maya Stone, which is one of Robert's bastards in the Vale, and he says, "Oh, I've got Maya Stone here. I've got these tapestries here. Tommen, Myrcella, you guys are all bastards."
Right. Well, another thing that really makes me believe this theory is that how Cersei is. She thinks she's the badass, and every plan she's ever fucking had has always tremendously backfired on her. I remember how she wanted to make Jaime a Kingsguard so he'd be closer to her back when her father was Hand of the King, right?
Yeah.
That was her plan, and then Jaime becomes Kingsguard, and Tywin is so offended, he takes Cersei and he moves back to Castle Rock, right?
Yeah.
That backfires on her, a lot. And how she wants to use, she wanted Joffrey to be king, because, in a sense, doesn't she, want to control Joffrey? She kind of wants to rule herself and use Joffrey as kind of, not a puppet, but rule through him.
And this is a huge difference between the show and the book. But in the books, Cersei isn't that into her kids. So, the show makes it, the defining character. Cersei loves her children.
That's her redeeming quality,
yes. That and her high cheekbones. But but in the book, she doesn't really care. She hardly thinks about Myrcella at all. She kind of likes Joffrey. She thinks he's fierce. Tommen, she thinks he's a good boy, but she thinks about him in the sense that he'll do what he's told. I can rule through him. He is my ticket to power. He is my right to power. I've waited. I've dealt with Tywin. I've dealt with my father. I've dealt with Robert. I've dealt with all this bullshit. and now it's my turn. And she thinks it's her turn because Tommen is her child.
Right.
And she, and that's kind of how she sees
But that's
her
going to
children.
backfire on her, too, like it always does. She wanted to use the High Sparrow against the Tyrells, and that backfired on her.
Yes, everything Cersei does in A Feast for Crows falls apart hilariously. I will say there is one thing that Cersei does that works really well, and that is she's the one that comes up with the idea for wildfire to be used during the Battle of the Blackwater, and the wildfire was very effective in the end. And but it kind of is only workable because it's one of the few times where, even though they're not explicitly doing it, they're implicitly like working together. The Lannisters are working to, like, Tyrion and Cersei are actually working together on something, though not hand in hand, but the fact that they're on the same side like makes it all work. And that's the one time where like Cersei's like idea actually, like benefits them.
But overall, like, all her ideas blow, and it always backfires on her.
Oh yeah, everything else just falls apart. She's
that, and that's what this theory does. It gives credence to that Cersei could never kill this baby when he was born. She could never have Gendry killed. She had Jaime take him and just put him in an orphanage or whatever and pawn him off. And the theory goes on is that Cersei forgets about him. She doesn't know what happened to him. I'm sure she thinks about him from time to time. Clearly, in season 1, episode 2, when she tells Catelyn, she still thinks about it. Maybe she was just trying to manipulate Catelyn to try to, make her feel better. Who knows? But because Cersei is such a fuck-up, it gives credence to the fact that Gendry could later be used against her by Peter Baelish. Because Peter knows the truth. Peter, he's in charge of the brothels. Like, he knows information. Information comes through him. Another hint is, and you remember this in the books, because it's in A Feast for Crows. In Season 2, Episode 1, when Arya and Gendry are talking, Arya asks, "Who's your mum?" And he goes, "Some tavern wench." In A Feast for Crows, Jaime is overlooking Tywin's body, and he doesn't see Cersei come in. He thinks it's just some random person. And Jaime makes a note of it that she looks like a tavern wench.
Huh.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do. I mean, I mean, it's you're giving a lot of credit to the showrunners. And this is the thing is sort of which inconsistency do we want to like run with? Like, okay, I do admit, like, introducing that element of her having this previous child before Joffrey, should be this really important plot point that really affected Cersei that should come back. But at the same time, like, later we're introduced to the Maggie the Frog prophecy, which clearly says that Cersei has 3 children, even though in the show she has 4 children.
I'm willing to counter. I have a counter for that.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
We're gonna stretch it out here. This is gonna you're probably gonna call bullshit, but it's a prophecy, and prophecies have a lot of loopholes. Like the one example I always give is, what if Maggie the Frog gave you the prophecy that you will be killed by the black cat? So your first instinct is to avoid every cat that's black. No problem. But then ultimately you die from a criminal who goes by the nickname the Black Cat. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Prophecies have loopholes all the time. So what if the loophole here is that Cersei would have 3 kids. She has 4. But Gendry doesn't count because she gave him away. She doesn't want him.
I see.
So Cersei only considers her only children ever to be Joffrey, Marcella, and Tommen. The ones with golden crowns and golden shroud. Like, that's who she considers to be her kids. Even if it came out that Gendry was her kid, she would never believe it because she doesn't know what happened to the baby. She doesn't know if Jaime, like, killed it or pawned it off or, like, gave it. She doesn't know what happened to it. She doesn't care that she gave it away. It's not hers. Maggie the Fraud says her children. Gendry, even if Gendry was birthed by her, it's not hers.
Right, but by that standard, none of then Robert would have no children because all of his were given away.
But did he exactly give it away? All his children? Like, did he really though? Like, did he really come out and say, "Oh, you're my bastard. Go away. I don't want you"? Because if you'll recall, when he mused about bringing Maya Stone to court, Cersei offhandedly threatened the girl. So he's not technically giving his bastards away. He's just about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Robert's very inconsistent with his bastards. Like, he liked Maya Stone when he was young and thought she was cute, and then he stopped supporting her. And then Edric Storm, he would send all sorts of gifts to.
That wasn't him. Wasn't that Varys?
You're right. It was Varys. Like, yeah. And it was actually, Robert didn't give a shit at all. So he kind of cared about Maya Stone at first, and then didn't give a shit about any of his bastards later. Yeah, no, you're right. Varys is the one that pretended to make Edric Storm really love his dad.
Well, Jon Arryn also plays a part in this. In the show, keep in mind, this is all in the show. The only book element I put in this theory is the wench thing, and yeah, it's important I clear this up a bit. In the books, when Jaime is overlooking Tywin's body, there is a woman who comes in to talk to him, and Jaime makes a note of it to say she looks like a wench, which is, what Gendry says in season 2, and it's Cersei, and she says to him, like, remember when I used to dress like this when we met up in secret? So I'm also going to assume that happened in the show, too, because we've seen them do stuff in secret as well on the show, so, yeah.
I mean, I suppose. I mean, I guess... I don't remember any lines about it in the show.
Oh, no, they wouldn't put this in the show, but the whole Jon Arryn thing is that Peter Baelish figures this Gendry situation he figures it out a while ago, and he figures out before anybody, and he's keeping watch of all Robert's bastards, not actively supporting them, but making sure they're healthy enough to use later against the Lannisters. Jon Arryn has known Cersei for a very long time, so he's had time to understand her a bit better, and knows her well enough to know that there is something else going on. You said that Cersei in the books doesn't show care about her kids very much, but in the show she does, and Jon Arryn can see that. He's going to question a lot of things, because he's a smart guy. He knows this woman for a very long time, and he may even question what happened to the first child. Did it really die, or was there some shady plot at play? So he goes off looking for all of Robert's bastards, because he wants to prove that the 3 kids aren't Robert's, so he needs, multiple pieces of evidence to build his case, and he wants to use the many bastards and their features against Cersei. So Peter sees this, and he can't let Jon Arryn ruin his plans, so he has Jon killed.
Well, I mean, I think Gendry was a Varys kind of a piece. He wanted...
In the show or in the book?
I think both. And that's the whole thing. Is I'm trying to remember. I know in the book his discussion about Gendry, and him bringing Gendry to the wall was shortly after Tyrion sends the head of the city guard to the wall. And I'm trying to remember, if that scene is in there as well about how, there was this bastard boy. I want to say there was, because I'm trying to think of like the last scene of season 1 where Arya and Gendry jump on, or maybe it's the first episode of season 2 where Arya and Gendry are jumping on the back of the wagon in the Night's Watch, and it's like the last scene of the episode. I'll have to go back and look for this about somebody referencing Gendry, but I want to say that Varys was keeping his eye on him.
Well, let me counter that. I don't think Varys was keep. Oh, wait, you call him Varys? I love like.
Why not? People. First of all, people give me so much shit about like pronunciation, and it's just like, who cares? Like it doesn't matter.
We know who you're talking.
I know. I started like to fuck people.
Cersei.
Like I've been referring to Jon Snow as Jon Snow, just to fucking like fuck with people now. Because it's just what I thought the first time I read the book, and then everybody pronounces everything differently. Like you hear different people.
Like me with Cersei instead of Cersei.
Right, and that's fine. I'll never correct you on it because even George R. R. Martin has said who cares. But the show has a way of pronouncing it, and then Roy Dotrice, the guy that does the audiobooks, has a way, and then And then there's what I thought when I first read the books, which tends to be, do I know someone with a name similar to that, And so which is what some people are like, why do you pronounce it Brienne? I'm like, well, I know a Brienne. Like, why do you pronounce it Ariana? Well, I know an Ariana.
Oh, that's right. It is. Is it Brienne?
I guess. Or some people say Brienne.
Brienne. I fucking hate how Roy Dotrice, he calls Peter Baelish Patar.
Patar, yeah.
I fucking hate that.
But then he switches it. He switches up all the time. Like Amory Lorch and Amory Lorch, and which is fine, whatever. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
All right, we're getting off track here.
Okay, back to Gendry.
I don't think Varys is keeping an eye on him. Like the whole people are questioning it. Well, what if Gendry's being sent to the wall? Like if Peter Baelish wants to use him as a trump card, why is he being sent to the wall? Because Peter, who's a mastermind, love the guy, favorite character. Peter's a mastermind. He knows that he correctly assumes Joffrey will move to kill all these bastards at some point. He can't have anybody trying to question his rule. So Peter has Gendry go to the wall to keep him safe. Because at the wall, you're protected, right?
Yes.
So he also has plans for these other bastards, but he's too late. And Joffrey orders the city guard, city's watch, to kill them all. Gendry is the only one who is able to get out just in time. I'm sure he has other bastards elsewhere hidden, but
So the whole thing about
he wants to use Gendry as a trump card against the Lannisters.
The whole thing about that trip to the north. Keep in mind that Ned was supposed to be on that trip, and Gendry was supposed to be on that trip. And so, I've theorized for a long time that Yoren was Varys' creature, because it makes sense in a way in the book in that when Tyrion is captured by Catelyn at the end of the crossroads,
right,
and then Arya then overhears Varys talking about it, and then Yoren shows up and tells Ned. So Yoren rides his horse as fast as he can, and you're supposed to think that Ned is the first person to find out, but Varys already knew. Meaning Yoren talked to Varys first. Plus, Yoren is the one that in the book that takes the money to take Gendry, and Varys talks to Ned and convinces him to go to the wall, and then sets up this thing for him to go to the wall. So that trip, Yoren, Gendry, Ned, all of those elements are Varys' doing, which is why I say Yoren is working for Varys and all of these different things. And so,
well, Yoren could be working for Varys, but at the same time, though, your whole thing is that when Catelyn captured Tyrion, Yoren is the first person to notify Varys. But don't you think it's also possible that someone else in that tavern is Varys' spy and they let him know ahead of time?
But do they have a raven? That's the idea. And then he has his own raven. Does he have? He's a little bird network. They use a glass candle. There's a lot of possibilities. But I think that with when you couple the fact that Yoren admits that he was bribed by Varys to take Gendry, and the fact that he arrives with this information and Varys knows it before Ned, I would say those things together show that Yoren is an agent of Varys. That's my opinion. But
well, to me it just sounds like it honestly. I'm hoping that's true. I'm hoping Yoren is an agent of Varys, because it would honestly just mean that this whole Peter Baelish versus Varys thing goes deeper than we thought.
Oh, yeah. Because
Baelish wants Gendry to go to the wall where he'll be safe, but you have Yoren, who's Varys' agent, keeping an eye on him. So it's
that's true
checkmate,
as well.
no checkmate. I love this internal struggle between all of them, between both of these guys.
Oh, and I love that as well because they do seem to be, the two of them seem to be collecting pieces, and killing pieces. It's we're all chess pieces, So Varys was trying to collect Ned, and he failed to collect Ned because Littlefinger killed Ned before Varys could collect him. Right. Littlefinger told Joffrey to kill Ned before he could, collect him. And then later, Tyrion is is going on trial and is going to get killed, much to Littlefinger's joy, I'm sure, with his whole Joffrey's wedding fiasco. But Varys steals that piece and collects him and brings him across, the narrow sea to Illyrio. And then, the piece gets lost and things like that. And, there's questions of, is Penny the dwarf? I mean, this is from the book, but is Penny the dwarf like Littlefinger's crony? Is she following him around because she was hired by Littlefinger to be at the wedding? And so,
see, and you don't know. That's why he's such a great fucking character. You don't know. This fucking guy has his hand in probably everybody's cookie jar. And I hate how the show, and we'll talk about the leaks later, I hate how the show shits on him. Not as much as they shitted on Stannis, but they or Duran Martell. But they fucking take a dump on his character.
There's nothing worse than what they did to poor Duran Martell. Yeah.
But what do you think about the theory? Like Gendry being Cersei's child, like it fits with her characterization where she thinks everything, like every plan she has. I'll have this kid because maybe Robert will change within these 9 months. Oh no, he hasn't. I only want Jaime's children. I'll have this baby sent away. It can never come back to backfire on me.
I love the theory. I think it's better than what the writers are coming up with. I mean, like, I think that would be
so the Gendry theory is Preston approved?
It's Preston approved. Do I think it's true? No. But do I think it's better than what we're gonna get? Yes.
Is it better than Varys as a mermaid?
Yeah, no.
That's all I want to hear. That's all I want to hear. Case closed. Case closed.
I think it would be an excellent, cool twist. I mean, I love shit coming back. Like, I'm a sucker for, like, you bring something back from season 1 and you wrap stuff up in a nice little bow. I am a sucker for stuff like that. I love it. Mm-hmm. And I would love something like that. But keep in mind, this is also a show that forgot that Cersei had 4 kids. It's a show that forgot that Tyrion treated Theon horribly at Winterfell, and then turned around and said Theon treated Tyrion horrible. It's a show that forgets the importance of Moat Cailin. Wait. Wasn't Theon the person who talked shit to Tyrion first though? No. So season 1, it's a horribly brutal scene. So Tyrion is outside, and Theon comes out, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to go to this whorehouse, there's this really cool whorehouse, and there's this great whore named Roz." Like, Theon is being completely friendly. And then Tyrion turns around and is like, "Well, if it isn't like the Stark lackey." And he's like, "I'm not a Stark lackey, I'm a ward." And he's like, "Yeah, because you were caught in war. I wonder how your dad would like you being like a Stark lackey." And Theon's like, "What? Like, we lost the war because we were outnumbered." And he's like, "Yeah, it was a stupid war and your brothers died. Ha ha." Like, it's a brutal scene. It's a freaking brutal, like if you rewatch it now, like, you're just like, why on earth is this guy being such a dick? Like,
yeah, never mind. You're completely fucking right. Holy shit. He was a dick. Yeah,
right. And then, then later it's like, "Oh, you made fun of me at Winterfell." And he's like, "Oh, it was a long time ago." No, like, it was completely It was honestly like it's the second meanest like show Tyrion has ever been. The first meanest strangling his ex-girlfriend, but the second meanest.
That bitch deserved it. Fuck her. But let me ask you this: Why is Peter so intent on trying to have Tyrion killed? Is it because Tyrion is the only one capable of fucking uncovering all of Peter's like bullshit?
Book or show?
Both.
So in the book, second season, Tyrion, not knowing he stumbled onto something, he stumbles into some truth. So he goes up to in A Clash of Kings, he talks to Littlefinger and he says, "Hey, I was thinking we could." This was when he proposes to Littlefinger a Sweet Robin Myrcella marriage.
Right. Oh, that's that part. Right.
Right. And he goes to Littlefinger and he says, "And you know what else we could dish up?" And Littlefinger's like, "What?" And he's like, we could give him Jon Arryn's true killer." And Littlefinger's like, what? Like, Jon Arryn's true killer. Like, that's pretty damn interesting. Tyrion has no idea that Littlefinger is Jon Arryn's true killer, and he just says this to him, and Littlefinger is like, whoa, I think Tyrion is on to me, and so that's a big reason to want to kill him. Is that?
But is Tyrion bluffing when he says like he knows who Jon Arryn's killer is?
Yes.
They left that out of the show. I don't remember Clash of Kings. Like, I will say Clash of Kings is my least favorite. I really like A Feast for Crows better.
Yeah.
But I don't remember Clash of Kings.
So Clash of Kings, like, it's very forgettable because, like, it's a Tyrion dominated book. He has the most chapters, and it's a lot of like him fucking Shay and feeling like he's really good at the Game of Thrones when actually he's really horrible at the Game of Thrones. Like, there's an exceptional amount of time of like dedicated to him sitting there going, I'm really good at this. I like my life as hand. And it's like, actually, you suck. Like, it's and then a lot is dedicated to like the Battle of the Blackwater and leading up to it. And then a lot is Arya's very confusing, like, wandering the Riverlands plot with, going to Harrenhal and stuff like that, which, the show has largely cut out, and it takes a couple rereads before you get Arya's plot straight, because she just kind of wanders.
Wait, in that second book, that's the one they changed up. I noticed one of the biggest changes was in the book, there's no Tywin and Arya scene, right? It's Roose Bolton and Arya.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's one of the few changes I really, really, really love, because I love Tywin and Arya together. That one scene where she goes, where he asks her, "What killed your father?" and she goes, "Loyalty." Love it. Absolutely fantastic scene. One of the best in the show's history.
Yeah, and the actor they got to play Tywin is, arguably he makes Tywin arguably more interesting than book Tywin. Like, you can just feel, and in fact, I would say that that's one thing the show really did well, was expanding the fatherly relationship between all of the characters. Tywin to Cersei, Tywin to Tyrion, Tywin to Jaime. We don't really have that in the book, except kind of in retrospect. Tywin is a big bully, and that's it. He's not this like clever, backhanded, guy who may or may not love his children. We're not sure. Like, it gets very confusing. And the actor, and I forgot his name, but he
Charles Dance.
He plays it brilliantly. He plays it, and his stiff upper lip, British,
that posh British accent.
Yeah, like, 21st century colonialist like attitude is just is perfect for it.
But all right, we're getting off track here because we could talk about the book for hours. So the Gendry theory, you think it's interesting. You think you would want it to happen, but it would never happen because the show is just fucking douchey when it comes to cool stuff like that.
Yes, you saw what they did. Well, first off, like, Gendry is probably going to show up for a few episodes and then get killed. Just like,
well, he's part of the Fellowship. Like, you saw the leaks. He's part of the Fellowship.
Yeah, but even the Fellowship is just going to get, they need they're trying to trim characters, and season six was, hey, cameo, you're dead, right? Like, that's the story of season 6, and we have no reason to think they're going to stop with that. Like, is Gendry gonna be in the final battle, like riding a dragon? I don't know. Like, probably not.
I wouldn't say he'll be riding a dragon, but a lot of consensus about him is that he's important because we're gonna take stuff from the books here, because in the show they left this out. Yeah. In the books, Tobo Mott, his master blacksmith teacher person, he's the one that reforges Ice, Ned Stark's Valyrian steel sword, into 2 different swords. And that's in the books. But in the show, like, they don't get Tobo Mott to do that. They get some random guy in Essos to do it. So I think they missed an opportunity there because
Gendry would have that ability as well.
Yeah, like in the show he would have that ability as well, because I honestly don't see what the fucking purpose of him rejoining the show now really is, other than for Peter Baelish to go and say, hey, look, Gendry is the real Baratheon. I'm putting him up on the throne. You have no fucking claim. Fuck you. And I'm also going to make Sansa his queen. That would get the support of the Riverlands, the North, the Vale with him, the remaining Baratheons, and there you go. Or it could give him this is what goes back to the Gendry theory. It could give him the support of the Tyrells, or it could have with Marjorie and Gendry, but she's gone, which I still can't believe, but
yeah,
she's gone. And I think the original plan Peter had was to have Marjorie marry Gendry after he reveals his true thing, so Marjorie can marry her third Baratheon and finally get the Tyrells behind her, maybe make a deal with the Martells.
I mean,
and
you're right that so right now Gendry is pointless in the sense that, like, you know, Gendry's original function from the beginning was you have this guy who when people look at his hair, they know that Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella are bastards, and they have no right to the throne. Right. Now those three are in the show. Those three are dead. So what's Gendry's function? Well, I mean, I suppose you could legitimize him and, like, try to make him king, like, but they legitimized Jon Snow, like, randomly out of nowhere. I suppose you could just legitimize Gendry randomly out of nowhere if bastards can rule now. I mean, the problem is that, like, the game, like, it was very, like, the fun game of Succession is now out the window with the show, because Succession makes no sense in any realm whatsoever. You know, like, you know, Doran Martell dies, therefore Doran Martell's little brother's girlfriend is now ruling the door. like it, you know, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
Preston, stop it. We all know weak men will never rule Doran again. We all know that.
Never rule. Yes. You know, or like, you know, like Mace Tyrell, like, dies, therefore his mom is ruling the you know, the Reach, even though we know other Tyrells are still alive. Like, you know, Marjorie specifically says she has cousins, like they would be ruling, not Mace Tyrell's mom. Or, like, why is Cersei ruling the Iron Throne? Or why when...
And you know what this really feels like? Because you're touching on something here that I think needs to be said, and I need to make a separate video on it. It honestly feels like, and I've touched on this before briefly, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, it feels like the showrunners are getting just sick of doing this every year. Like, you can tell they just want to wrap things up, and because before, like, they would close loopholes. They would. Before, you could tell they wanted to. They had a lot of things to do with it. But I think after doing the same thing for the past 7 years now, yeah, they're just tired of it, and they just want to wrap it up as quickly as possible. Season 7's having only 7 episodes.
Yeah, and that, so, you know, I recently rewatched season 4, and one thing that I noticed that I was actually kind of impressed that they wrapped it up was, you know, in King's Landing, they find out that Daenerys exists and is a problem, and they actually have a meeting about it, and they say, well, we need to do something, and then they actually do have a person show up and, like, out Jorah Mormont as like the informer, and I'm like, well, you know, okay, I'll grant they had a series of scenes, like, starting with Joffrey, like, questioning the fact that Daenerys exists, moving to Tywin, bringing it up at the Small Council, and then, like, you know, it ending with Jorah's expulsion. Like, they did close a loop, and it wasn't in the book. It wasn't George R. R. Martin closing a loop. It was them. You know, I was impressed with that. But yeah, that kind of stuff kind of peters out in season 5 and season 6.
Funny enough, they also closed the loop on a lot of other things, but it honestly, it just really, and for a show like Game of Thrones to have deleted scenes, I think is just insane, because every scene for this show is kind of crucial. They also have a meeting in the same season about Mance Rayder coming in the north. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
They have a scene where everybody's sitting around and they're like, what about this king beyond the wall? And Tywin's plan, if I recall correctly, is to just let him come, let the Northerners fight him, because at this point they're still enemies. Let the Northerners fight him, let him fucking deal with it, and we'll send an army to stop them eventually before they get too close. Like, it almost seemed like, I guess they took it out because Roose Bolton would have to deal with Mance Rayder or something. And it almost seemed like he didn't care whether or not Roose Bolton was killed in the fight. I have to go back and rewatch it, but it was a deleted scene. They do have a lot of deleted scenes, which I feel like should really be in there, you know?
Like,
for
why
example,
not? Yeah.
For example, in the last season, in the latest season, season 6, there's a deleted scene about Ed and Ghost. Like, you would think that the mutineers would kill Ghost, but no, they don't. Ghost is there just chilling. Ed is able to round him up and put him inside.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember that, and everyone was quite confused. Like, why did they, like, when did they catch Ghost? I mean, you kind of figure it out later because Summer falls in one of the traps, and you're like, oh, I guess they caught Ghost in a trap. But no, you're saying it was actually Ed.
Yeah, Ed comes and he grabs Ghost, and Thorne is like, what are you gonna do with that? You should release it beyond the wall where it belongs. And Ed's like, no.
Oh, that mutineers. I thought, when you say mutineer, I was like, which the later
no, not
mutineers.
the Craster ones. I'm talking about the ones in Thorne and all those other guys.
Gotcha. Why he's in the howling in the shed. Yeah. Yeah. So Gendry, like, I mean, is it important that Gendry is the son of Robert? Like, does that mean anything now? Because I mean, even Jon Snow, like,
it could mean something.
But they you know, like they spontaneously decided that Jon Snow was going to be King of the North, despite being a bastard, despite like Sansa being like sitting right there, despite Sansa winning the battle with her army. Like, you know,
with her allies,
right? Like she brought the army, she won the battle, she's the rightful ruler of the North. She's sitting right frickin' there. Why was Jon Snow named the king? I don't know. So I mean, the fact that Jon,
and according to the leaks, she tries to make some fucking moves and plays, and Jon's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, she should be queen already. I don't know why anyone. I mean, I don't know why he would. I don't know why she didn't stand up at that moment and be like, guys, I'm right here. I guess I'm fucking invisible.
She wouldn't be invisible if she married Gendry and they became king and queen. But that's it for now. We'll wrap this up another time with another episode. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all next time.